ved også omkring den her sygdom, at ca. 80% eller måske flere i en dansk kontekst vil ikke have brug for hjælp fra sundhedsvæsenet eller indlæggelse på sygehuset.
Søren, hvornår skal børn have vaccinen?
Vi regner faktisk ikke med, at børn skal vaccineres mod corona, i hvert fald ikke lige foreløbig.
Hvorfor?
Den ene grund det er, at børn ikke har særlig stor risiko for at blive syge af corona, og i hvert fald ikke blive alvorligt syge.
Søren Brostrøm blev medlem af WHO i september 2017 og blev valgt som formand for denne i 2019. Han har været medlem af WHO's globale bestyrelse, Executive Board, siden maj 2021. 2023 ansat som seniorrådgiver i WHO i Genève.
The development of safe and effective vaccines less than a year after the emergence of this novel coronavirus is a stunning scientific achievement.
Som vi har hørt både statsminister og øvrige taler, det er fortsat at komme gennem den her vinter med et samfund, der er mest muligt åben, samtidig med at vi undgår, at sundhedsvæsenet knækker. Og nøglen, det er vacciner, vacciner og vacciner. Den første og vigtigste effekt, det er altså dem, der er vaccineret, har jo en stor beskyttelse mod at få selve infektionen.
The vaccine, the Moderna vaccine, as well as the Pfizer vaccine, is about 94 to 95% efficacious in preventing clinical disease and almost 100% efficacious in preventing serious disease.
Bidens øverste medicinske rådgiver. Fauci trådte tilbage ved udgangen af 2022. Den 20. januar 2025 benådede præsident Biden uden fortilfælde Fauci fra potentiel fremtidig retsforfølgelse.
The vaccine, the Moderna vaccine, as well as the Pfizer vaccine, is about 94 to 95% efficacious in preventing clinical disease and almost 100% efficacious in preventing serious disease.
Men ikke desto mindre, så har vi en betydelig stigning i, hvor mange der er indlagt. Og jeg har taget en kurve med her, og vi kan se, at her i starten af oktober, der er omkring 80 indlagt. Og vi kommer hen her nu, på en måned senere, der er over 300 indlagt. Det er en 3,5 gang stigning. Og tilsvarende, så har vi nu, som vi hørte sundhedsministeren sige, så har vi 36 på intensiv. Det er 2,5 gange flere, end der var på det her tidspunkt.
Og mange siger, så er det fordi vaccinerne ikke virker. Det gør de. Vaccinerne virker. Vaccinerne er ekstremt effektive. Der er ingen tvivl om, at vaccinerne virker.
Og 14 dage efter andet stik, så kan du kalde dig færdigvaccineret, og så kan vi alle sammen vende tilbage til hverdagen.
Vaccinerne virker. Vaccinerne er ekstremt effektive. Hvis man er færdigvaccineret og møder en anden færdigvaccineret, og man i øvrigt spritter hen og overholder vores retningslinjer, så kan man godt give hånd eller give et kram. Den immunitet, man får efter andet stik ved vaccinerne, den immunitet er nok ikke stærk nok til at forebygge smitte og alvorlig sygdom. Vores anbefaling er, og det er ekstremt vigtigt for mig at understrege, at uanset om man er vaccineret eller ej, altså, så skal man testes ved mindste symptom. Og det er ekstremt vigtigt, særligt den her vintersæson. Host, nys og feber osv. Isoler dig selv, bliv hjemme. Du skal ikke gå på arbejde, du skal testes. Det kan være det corona. Særligt de ældre og sårbare, på trods af at de er færdigvaccineret, de har en øget risiko for, hvis de bliver smittet og bliver syge.
Bliv vaccineret, tag tredje stik. Det er virkelig et supervåben, vi har, og det virker, og det virker også mod omikron.
The vice president is vaccinated and boosted twice. She tested positive today for COVID.
Så konklusionen, helt overordnet, det er, at vi har kraftigt stigende smitte, vi har stigende indlæggelser.
Hvor mange er død af covid-19?
Ja, det ved vi jo simpelthen ikke.
Og alligevel fortsatte vaccineudrulningen til børn. Vaccinen var nødgodkendt. Kan man kalde det ansvarligt?
Den vigtigste først, og den står her på planchen. Flere skal være immune ved det store danske vaccinationsprogram. Det handler både om første stik til dem, der kan få det, selvfølgelig andet stik, men i særdeleshed tredje stik, altså det boosterstik, som rigtig mange heldigvis siger ja til i de her timer og dage.
Og derfor så handler det om at handle i tide. Det handler om rettidig omhu, og det er præcis derfor, at vi nu indstiller til Folketinget og tager de her næste skridt.
Til alle børnefamilierne. Det er vores store håb, vores helt store håb, at I vil få jeres børn vaccineret i løbet af december, og gerne så hurtigt som muligt.
Vi er altid ekstra forsigtige med vacciner til børn, så vi er helt sikre på, at dokumentationen og sikkerheden og bivirkningerne er i orden.
Og håbet med det her er, at vi i den mellemliggende periode får vaccineret rigtig, rigtig mange børn og unge i Danmark.
Det er også, at vi jo har udvidet vaccinerne til alle børn helt ned til 5 år, og det er rigtig vigtigt, at børnene også bliver vaccineret. Det er sikkert for børnene at blive vaccineret. Det er nogle helt fantastiske vacciner, vi har.
That if you get vaccinated, you will not be infected, and you will not spread the virus. They even ran a campaign and said, get vaccinated in order to keep your grandmother and your parents healthy.
It's the second positive diagnosis for Queen Margrethe, who also contracted the virus in February, despite 3 vaccines for COVID.
We find out now, after more than a year, that when they requested the special marketing authorization, they haven't tested the vaccine to see if it's stopping the spread of the virus.
We are fast becoming one of the worst places in the world for new COVID cases.
Hvornår bliver de stillet til ansvar for de ugerninger, de har påført børnene og resten af den danske befolkning?
Ursula von der Leyen must immediately and unconditionally resign from her position as president of the European Commission due to the fact that her actions are currently criminally investigated by the European Public Prosecutor's Office. EPPO just announced a few days ago that it's investigating the way the contracts were signed between the European Commission and the producers of vaccines. And this is what the Court of Auditors just stated in a report released a few days ago, and I quote, "The Commission has signed, up to November 2021, 71 billion euros worth of contracts on behalf of the member states to purchase up to 4.6 billion COVID-19 vaccine doses. That means that she purchased 10 doses of vaccines for every EU citizen based on contracts that were never released to the public. This is how the contracts that she signed with these pharmaceutical companies were released to the public."
Yesterday, in the official European Parliament Special Committee for COVID pandemic management, the Pfizer CEO Albert Bourla refused to appear to answer our legitimate questions about his private text messages with the President of EU Commission, Ursula von der Leyen, that have already been considered to be irregular, according to the Transparency EU regulation, by the EU Ombudsman and the EU Court of Auditors. He has sent Mrs. Small in his place, who has not answered the most important questions that our special committee has addressed to her regarding the company's price policy, the release of clinical trials reports, adverse effects, and other issues concerning the safety and efficacy of Pfizer-BioNTech vaccines. The continuous non-fulfillment of the duties of transparency by Pfizer's executives clearly violates the EU citizens' rights to know in detail how and for which purpose the taxpayers' money is spent. We're discussing about billions of public money that has been managed by the EU Commission by secret agreements directly conducted with the company's CEO, away from democratic control of people by their elected representatives in the EU Parliament. The refusal by President von der Leyen to disclose the content of their text messages first, and the denial by Mr. Bourla to appear in front of the Parliament then, followed by the reticent behavior of Mrs. Small yesterday, casts concerning shadows on the legitimacy of the entire contract award process, leaving suspicion of corruption to emerge.
So, yesterday's session of COVID committee showed yet again that EU Parliament is nothing but a gigantic show of democracy illusion to fool the peoples of Europe into thinking their interests were represented in Parliament. It is not, though. Not only do the invited panelists, such as representatives of pharmaceutical companies or ministers of health from the member states, not answer any of our questions. No, they continue to spread disinformation about the safety and efficacy of mRNA injections. They continue to lie about and downplay, outright deny the harmful effects of these injections. They continue to deny the people access to the contracts, and they continue to let Ursula von der Leyen get away with not disclosing the texts exchanged between her and Pfizer CEO, Mr. Bourla. In short, they continue to demonstrate their utter contempt for the peoples of EU. The chair of COVID committee, Ms. Kathleen van Bremt, Social Democrat in Belgium, does not run this committee to serve the people. She runs this committee to protect the interests of pharmaceutical companies, EU Commission, and governments of EU at the expense of the people. Yesterday, Mrs. van Bremt refused to put a point of order to a vote. This is a gross violation of the rules of procedure and demonstrates her disregard for democracy and the rights of the people. You might want to drop her a couple of lines to let her know that you will not tolerate your rights being violated by her or anyone else for that matter. I had raised this point of order to declare COVID committee incompetent to serve the best interest of the people and to expose their scheme for lack of authority to compel anyone to appear in front of committee and to answer any questions, thus opening a way to have a formal committee of inquiry set up. A formal committee of inquiry would give the people the means to get to the bottom of things and would put an end to their plot of stripping the people of freedom, democracy, and the rule of law. All of us here today, and many more, there is more MEPs by now, we will continue to fight for a committee of inquiry. But we need you to join us in this fight. We need your help to do it. So here's what you can do. Write to your MEPs, call their offices, and keep doing it. I mean, do it over and over and over again, literally clocking their phone lines. Get on their nerves. Demand a committee of inquiry. And keep doing it for as long as it takes. Do not stop until your demands are met. It is your right. Let them know that in a democracy, it is in fact you, the people, that are running the show. And if they fail to respect that, then let them know you will replace them.
Biden gives Pfizer and Moderna shield from being sued for COVID vaccine injuries and deaths until 2029.
Yet people who reported vaccine injuries and deaths on the VAERS system were ignored, they were mocked, they were called conspiracy theorists, and they were canceled on social media when they tried to tell about the horrifying things that were happening to them or their family members. The CDC even changed the definition of vaccine. The FDA approved an experimental vaccine through a rushed approval process that suppressed trials and data that showed that vaccine and had side effects that even caused death. 15 pages of known side effects the FDA wanted sealed for 75 years. Vaccines need to be investigated further. The rise of autism, learning disabilities, neurological problems, and so much more that children are suffering from today absolutely is being forced upon these children and their families because of these vaccines. This committee should have investigated the vaccines, and it was a failure to not do so. This has literally been a war on the American people's health, the world's health, but also a war on our children's health. It's a war that has been waged on them by our government, Big Pharma, who's making all the money. Dr. Fauci lied to the American people, abusing his power and position and role, very powerful role, paid for by the American tax people. He lied and many, many people died.